Think about this. The year is 2026. 50 of the best trained modern soldiers in the world suddenly travel 2,000 years into the past. Their only goal is to take over the Roman Empire. Yes, just 50 people. But what stands against them is not an ordinary city. There are thousands of soldiers, powerful commanders, the Senate, guards, and a massive order controlling everything. On top of that, these 50 soldiers have no reinforcements and no endless ammunition. They only have the equipment they can carry. So now the real question is this: can these 50 soldiers really conquer Rome? When they open their eyes, a harsh wind hits their faces. On the horizon, there are dusty roads, stone structures, and massive walls rising in the distance. The heart of Rome stands in front of them. They have no tanks, no helicopters, no satellite support, no reinforcements, no spare ammunition. All they have is the food they can carry, limited weapons, a few communication devices, and enough water to survive. In this mission, there is zero room for error, because every bullet they lose is a loss they cannot replace. They do not attack on the first day, because they are professionals. First, they hide. Outside the city, in a dry area surrounded by trees and rocky ground, they set up a temporary camp. Throughout the night, there are only guard shifts and quiet radio whispers. When the sun rises, they begin watching Rome from a high hill. The carts entering and leaving the city, the guard changes, the movement at the city gates, the formation of the guards, the density of the marketplace. Everything is noted. At that time, Rome was not just a community of men swinging swords. The legion system was one of the most disciplined military structures the world had ever seen. A single Roman legion could consist of thousands of soldiers. And these were not randomly gathered fighters. They were trained, organized units used to a chain of command. On top of that, there were guards serving inside the city, elite protectors, and special units defending the rulers. Then an opportunity appears. A small merchant convoy leaving the city is caught alone on a narrow road. At first, the soldiers try to understand the men, but they quickly realize that the language barrier locks everything down. The soldiers do not know Latin, and the merchants do not know English. At that moment, the plan changes. The merchants' clothes are taken, the carts are examined. They calculate what can be hidden among the cargo. The goal is no longer to run straight toward the gate. It is to infiltrate Rome. That way, they can easily bring their weapons into the city. And this is the moment when the movie truly begins. They approach the city gates. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary day, but there is nothing ordinary inside that cart. Hidden equipment, eyes silently watching each other, and a disaster waiting to begin with one wrong move. Once they get inside, they immediately split up. First, they learn Rome. They observe the direction of the streets, the hours when the crowds increase, the movement around official buildings, the routes used by high-ranking figures, and which neighborhoods become more vulnerable at night. Taking down the emperor will not be enough to take over Rome, because the Senate is very powerful. They also have to capture the nobles in the Senate who hold critical power, and they know this. That is why, during this observation period, they identify the locations of everyone with high rank. If they truly want results, they have to break three things at the same time: the chain of command, the decision center, the balance of fear. Otherwise, one target falls and another takes its place. One building burns and another takes over command. One leader dies and the legions unite for revenge. So the operation cannot be a single raid. It has to be a collapse plan that explodes in one night. As the days pass, they turn into invisible ghosts inside the city. One group watches high-ranking commanders. Another group memorizes the guard pattern around the centers of power. The others blend into the crowds and study the city's chaotic moments. But no matter how careful they are not perfect. At one point, one of them is noticed. His walk, his facial features, his attitude, the way he looks around. Something feels wrong to the Romans. A brief moment of suspicion, then shouting, then a chase. The man tries to disappear through the narrow streets. He moves through the crowd. This is the kind of breaking point that could ruin the entire plan. because now rumors begin spreading through Rome. There are strangers in the city, and they are not ordinary strangers. Right here, the tempo suddenly rises. The team can no longer wait, because time has become their enemy. If they delay any longer, the city gates will tighten, checkpoints will increase, and high-ranking figures will strengthen their layers of protection. So the decision is made. The operation will begin tonight. The plan is ruthless. Crises will be created in different parts of the city at the same time. The goal is not to physically destroy the Roman army completely. That is already impossible. The goal is to make them run to the wrong places, to disrupt the flow of information, to pull units outside the city. When night falls, Rome still looks like Rome. But in the darkness, an invisible web has already been set up. The team is divided. One group is waiting for the order to move against important commanders. One group takes position around the Senate. One group waits in the outer areas to start the distractions. Another group has moved to high points and is coordinating the team. The first major shock happens in the most unexpected part of the city. A massive explosion lights up the night. Then another explosion happens far away from the first one. Then screams rise from the distance. Roman soldiers move by reflex, but here is the problem. They do not know where to go, because the threat is not in one place. There is fire on one side, collapse on another, panic somewhere else. This is exactly how the military order begins to break. Everyone runs, but they do not know what is happening. At that exact moment, another team moves. Operations are carried out against several smart commanders who had been watched earlier. It is not very difficult because their plans were prepared in advance. It is the same tactic they used on the merchant, but this time they catch the vehicle in crossfire and finish the job. Another commander is taken down by a sniper. Near the center of the city, things get even more chaotic. Explosions around the area, fires nearby, and assassinations. A major panic erupts around the Senate. Rome's aristocrats were not men who swung swords on the battlefield. Their power came from words, money, connections, and political influence. Because of that, they were not as brave as the soldiers. Most of them think only of themselves and try to flee or hide. They use the empire's guards for their own security. The brave ones have already been taken hostage by the soldiers or eliminated. But things are still not guaranteed, because the Roman emperor is still standing and still in his palace. The modern soldiers have to use their ammunition well and distract the Roman warriors guarding the palace, because this palace is protected by 500 elite guards. And in critical situations like this, that number rises 2 or 3 times higher. Even though the modern soldiers have rifles and bombs, they have to use their ammunition carefully. For this, 4 snipers are positioned around the palace. The final and most critical operation begins. The soldiers easily clear the area in front of the palace gate. They enter the palace garden, and right at that moment, a Roman warrior behind them notices the situation and shouts. In the distance, a guard rings the palace alarm bell. A sniper neutralizes him, but it is already too late. The bell has rung once. The soldiers open their way by firing at the guard units entering the palace courtyard and throwing bombs. At that exact moment, as a spear is about to be thrown at the modern soldiers from behind, the snipers protect their friends. The modern soldiers finally enter the palace. While the front team clears the way, the others keep moving behind them without stopping. Doors are broken open, narrow corridors are crossed quickly, and the guards who appear in front of them are immediately neutralized. As the noise grows, the inside of the palace fully wakes up, but there is no turning back anymore. One of them scans the walls with infrared goggles, quickly analyzes the heat signatures inside, and identifies the most crowded room. This must be where the emperor is. The team changes direction without wasting any time and moves toward that point at full speed. Meanwhile, the emperor has also been informed of the situation and, as a last resort, heads toward a secret passage. He thinks he can escape, but this becomes his biggest mistake. The narrow and long corridor is perfect, not for escaping, but for getting trapped. The modern soldiers rush inside, and the emperor's escape route ends before it even begins. Within a few seconds, the emperor is gone too. And just like that, only 50 modern soldiers, using today's technology, bring down the Roman Empire. But whether they can actually hold it, that is for you to decide. Of course, this is completely a what-if scenario. It has nothing to do with reality. It is basically one of those crazy ideas we imagine before going to sleep. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you!